Hey, how are you? Chris Roselli here. Thanks a lot for coming by my website and checking out this free video. You're probably here because you saw my latest article in the October 2014 issue of Totally Tennis Magazine, where I talk about the muscles that help protect the rotator cuff and how you can strengthen them to prevent a rotator cuff injury or possibly even accelerate your recovery from a current injury. Now, one thing that a lot of people don't realize is that the rotator cuff muscles themselves are typically not the place to be focusing a tremendous amount of your exercise training on. I mean, although they do a number of things that are very important for shoulder health, they are very, very small stabilizing muscles of the shoulder that typically only get overworked to the point of injury when some of the bigger muscles of the shoulder are failing to do their job. So I'm going to be talking about in the coming videos how you can strengthen these bigger muscles of the shoulder so that the rotator cuff muscles are not trying to compensate as much for those bigger muscles, and in doing that you're going to help make sure that you do not have a rotator cuff injury. Because if you have had one, or you know somebody that's had one, it can be very, very detrimental to not just your tennis career, but to your quality of life in general, because your movements become restricted and things just hurt a lot more. So I'm going to talk about the most common rotator cuff injury in this video, and I'm going to be talking about one of the muscles that helps to prevent it. So the common rotator cuff injury that most people will have in their tennis playing lifetime is an injury called impingement. Okay, now impingement is just a term that is used to describe, something getting pinched between something else. When it comes to the rotator cuff, what they are typically referring to is impingement of this one particular muscle called your supraspinatus. Okay, it's one of the four muscles of the rotator cuff, and it actually sits underneath this little bone here of your scapula. Okay, this is called your acromion. Now what happens is this supraspinatus, because of its position, can actually become impinged. You can see that between the humerus bone and the acromion. That's why they call it impingement. Now what can happen is over time that impingement can actually cause the fibers of that muscle to start to fray and eventually tear. And that's going to cause a lot of problems with any kind of overhead type movement, also with oftentimes movements across the body and things like that. So that can really impede your tennis. So one of the things that I point out to people whenever I'm discussing, how to recover from one of these injuries with them is that the rotator cuff muscle injury is really just a symptom of a bigger problem. Okay, now I discussed those bigger muscles needing to be doing their job in order to take stress off the rotator cuff. It's no more true than with this particular issue, because what typically causes this is the scapula's inability to rotate effectively as you're going through a range of motion that involves getting up towards or over your head. So what you can do to kind of understand this a little better is go ahead and put your hand on your opposite shoulder and just feel what happens when you lift your arm up. Okay, now your humerus bone stops about right here. Okay, that's your quote-unquote shoulder joint. But as you can feel, you have another bone that's actually moving upwards as your arm is moving upwards, and it's not actually happening at your shoulder joint. It's happening here with your scapula. So you've got your shoulder joint here, but your scapula actually is rotating and moving up as your arm moves up. So you have this going on. You have the arm moving, and then you have the scapula moving with it, and that allows for the humerus to have a firm, stable base to sit on, and so it's not just hanging off the side of your scapula. This is called scapulohumeral rhythm, and what happens is when this rhythm is not ideal, you don't have enough of this movement of the scapula, so you have a whole lot of movement of the arm, and that begins to impinge that supraspinatus. So here's one thing to point out. These bigger muscles of the scapula are the ones that would help to assist with that rotation of it. We're going to focus on one today that's really, really important to be exercising and keeping strong in order to ensure that that rhythm is ideal. And that's the muscle here called your upper trapezius. Now, your upper trapezius is the biggest muscle that will help to rotate your scapula as your arm goes overhead, and it'll help to maintain a gap between your arm bone and your acromion. Okay, so that's going to help protect that supraspinatus. So here's what we're going to do a reinforcement exercise for that muscle. Okay, we're going to start with just a simple shrug. Okay, now we're going to do the majority of these isometrically, meaning without movement involved. Okay, we're going to move into the position and then we're going to hold ourselves in that position. So what you're going to do is you're going to start by shrugging the shoulders, pulling up as much as you can, and then bringing your head back and holding. Okay, you're going to feel these muscles of your upper trapezius start to engage. Okay, that's going to kind of get them warmed up. Okay, once we've done that, then we're going to actually go out to the side. Okay, we're going to turn in our arms just like so. So our biceps are facing our ribs. And then we're going to go out to the side, bringing our arms up, and then we're going to shrug from there. Okay, now you're going to feel this one a lot more. Okay, and just try to hold that for about 10 seconds. And just feel those upper trapezius muscles contracting. Okay, and then you're going to relax. Okay. Now, if you already have a rotator cuff injury and it's painful for you to get your arm up there, then try it without your arms turned in. Try it just in this kind of neutral position with your biceps facing forward, and maybe limit the amount of movement you have at your arms, but still try to get the shrug. Okay? Just try to find a comfortable middle ground that allows you to do it. But if you have that movement available, that pain-free movement available, go ahead and turn your arms in all the way and get all the way up into that position. Okay, so you're going to hold each of these for about a count of 10, and I would suggest doing about 5 repetitions of that, especially before you go out and play tennis. Okay, now if you already do regular exercises, you can incorporate this into that exercise program. You can do it before you do your upper body exercises, or maybe at the end of a workout when you're just trying to cool down. But I would definitely suggest doing that at least once a day. And if you are going to play tennis that day, do it before you go out and play. Okay, now there's another video here on this same page of actual rotation exercises that are also going to be good to do. It's going to help to warm up your shoulder and help to get you prepared for tennis. But this is going to be one that, like I said, is going to reinforce a muscle in the upper extremity that's going to be really critical for helping to protect the rotator cuff muscles, specifically the supraspinatus, which is the one that's most commonly torn. So hopefully you found that helpful. Keep doing that. You're going to see a lot of strengthening of your shoulders with that, and definitely a lesser likelihood of injury. If you are already in a position where you are trying to recover from an injury, you're kind of struggling, not really knowing what to do, some of these exercises can help, but you may be in a situation where you really need some more analysis of what's going on with you. And that is something that I do with people. What I typically suggest, though, is that they actually get my book as a resource to kind of understand this whole muscular component to different types of injuries in the orthopedic system. And this book is available in print on Amazon.com. You can go there and type in "Improve Muscles, Improve Life," and you will see my book show up on the first page. Or you can go to my website and you can download an electronic copy of the book absolutely for free. And if you're watching this on my website, which you probably are, you can just go and put in your name and email in the box that's on the right, and you can get that. And if you're watching this anywhere else, go ahead and go over to nonfictionfitness.com, and that's where that'll be. All right, so I look forward to seeing you in the next video and possibly meeting you in person. And until then, have fun, keep playing, and try not to hurt yourself. All right? Have a great day. God bless.